There are pains that don't make a sound, but they change everything. Have you ever felt that someone close to you was broken inside, even if he smiled on the outside? What if that person was Taurus? What if no one noticed? This revelation is not accidental. Dolores Cannon spoke of souls who came to sustain the world in silence. Today you will find out why Taurus was chosen to carry that nameless sadness, and how his soul turns it into power. Before we go any deeper, if this message is resonating with something you've always felt but never spoken, pause with me, subscribe to this space of soul recognition, and leave a comment below. Let us know, what truth have you been carrying in silence? You don't have to explain it fully, just name it. This is how we begin to heal, with presence and with each other. What you're about to see could change the way you understand strength and the true pain of the most stable sign of the Zodiac. Beneath the silence, the hidden pain of the Taurian soul. What if the person you admire for their strength is quietly breaking inside? What if behind the calm eyes of a Taurus lives a sorrow they never dared name? Taurus is the guardian of Earth's stillness, the architect of stability. People see their patience, their determination, their capacity to endure. They see a provider, a protector, a soul that doesn't fall apart when storms come. But what they don't see, what Taurus never allows the world to see, is the aching silence within, the one that whispers at night when everything else is asleep. Because Taurus doesn't collapse in public, they don't cry out loud, they break in solitude, in small, unnoticeable fragments, often alone, often without witnesses. And there lies the mystery of their pain, a pain that does not scream but settles in their bones. That makes a home beneath the surface of routines, responsibilities, and that eternal, "I'm fine." Taurus learned young that emotions are not safe in the hands of others, that the world doesn't always know what to do with what's fragile. So they began to hold everything inside, not because they don't feel, it's quite the opposite. Taurus feels more than they'll ever admit, but they've been taught, or maybe chose, to become their own fortress. They carry grief like a backpack that can't be put down, and no one suspects it because they do everything right. They show up, they work, they take care of everyone else. And this, ironically, is what keeps them invisible. Their sorrow becomes a private ritual, breathing through the ache, smiling over the weight, choosing silence over exposure. But here is the spiritual truth. Silence has a cost. When you bury your feelings long enough, they become roots. Roots that entwine around your heart, tightening with each "it's nothing," each "don't worry about me," until one day something breaks, not a glass, not a door, but something far more sacred, the connection to their own joy. The Taurus soul begins to forget what lightness feels like. This sadness doesn't explode, it accumulates. It hides in unfinished conversations, in overextended loyalties, in all the times they gave when they were empty. And because they are proud, because asking for help feels like defeat, they carry on. But within them brews a storm that the world never gets to see, until it's too late. They withdraw. They grow quiet in a different way. Not the peaceful Taurus you once knew, but a soul that has silently decided to stop hoping anyone will ever truly see them. Do you know what it feels like to be the strongest one and the loneliest too? Taurus does, every single day. If you are a Taurus or loved one, write this in the comments. I allow my soul to be seen. I release the weight I no longer need to carry. Because healing begins not with noise but with recognition, with the quiet courage to say, this pain lives here, but it doesn't define me. Write your decree. Speak your truth. The universe is listening. And maybe for the first time in a long while, you are too. Taurus doesn't just hold back emotions. They hold on to everything. They hold on to people, to memories, to words said in passing but felt for a lifetime. They hold on to routines that no longer nurture, to places that no longer feel like home, to relationships that have already ended spiritually, but not in their hearts. You see, Taurus doesn't let go because their love isn't casual. It's built, brick by brick, breath by breath. When they commit, they dig roots. and those roots don't rip easily. So when something ends, even if it's necessary, Taurus doesn't simply move on. They mourn in silence. They revisit every moment, every possibility, every could have been, until the memory becomes more real than the present. And that's where the sorrow lives, in the places they revisit with their heart, long after the world has moved on. This isn't nostalgia, this is soul-deep attachment, because Taurus doesn't invest halfway. They give the whole garden. And when that garden is abandoned or trampled or forgotten, they don't rage, they don't retaliate. They return to it in their mind again and again, hoping maybe this time the flowers will still be there. But they're not. And yet, Taurus waters it anyway. The pain of letting go for Taurus isn't just emotional, it's existential. It feels like being torn from the very foundation they built their identity on. They don't fear change because it's unknown. They fear it because it often arrives uninvited, like a storm that rips through a home they spent years building with their bare hands. So what do? They resist, they stall, they pretend it's not happening. But inside, they are grieving a future that will never be. And no one sees it because Taurus doesn't say, "I'm hurting." They say, "I just need time." And time becomes a cave where sadness multiplies in shadows. There is beauty in this depth, yes, but also danger. Because when a Taurus chooses to stay somewhere that's already gone, they begin to disappear too. They live in the past, in the version of someone who once felt whole, unaware that their soul is starving in the now. Do you know someone like this? Someone who still keeps a drawer full of memories, someone who smiles at you but has eyes that speak of a chapter that never truly ended? Then you know the Taurus heart. They will wait long after the door has closed, not because they're naive, but because their love doesn't understand how to stop without saying goodbye, and most of the time, they never got one. And this is the silent heartbreak of Taurus. They don't just miss people. They miss versions of themselves they can no longer return to. There is a sacred lie that Taurus tells the world, "I'm okay." They say it with a voice so calm, with eyes so steady, that even the most intuitive hearts believe them. They wear resilience like armor, and everyone applauds. So strong, they say, so grounded, but strength, when overused, becomes a prison. Because here's what they won't tell you. Sometimes Taurus is tired of being strong, tired of carrying others, tired of holding it together, tired of pretending they aren't falling apart in quiet moments no one sees. But they keep pretending, because what happens if they don't? Taurus fears vulnerability, not because they're ashamed of their feelings, but because they fear losing control. They've been conditioned, often by life itself, to believe that being soft means being exposed, and being exposed means being hurt. So they develop a system: silence over expression, logic over emotion, privacy over need. And while the world sees a composed figure walking through fire without flinching, inside, Taurus is drowning. But no one sees a drowning person who never waves for help. They smile at gatherings, offer advice, hold space for others to cry, but when it's their turn to break down, they isolate. They tell themselves, "I'll get through it, I always do." And they do, but each time, a piece of them gets buried deeper, until eventually even they can't remember where they left their joy. This is the sorrow Taurus carries. Not that they are alone, but that they have made their own solitude sacred, untouchable, protected by walls that no one dares question, because those walls are built with kindness and generosity, but they're walls nonetheless. If you've made it this far, your soul is listening, and that matters. This isn't just a video. It's a mirror for those who feel too deeply to put it into words. So stay with us, subscribe now if you haven't yet, and drop a comment. Let us know what part of this journey feels like yours. Your voice belongs here. Your story is sacred. And the soul, no matter how strong, was never meant to live behind walls forever. What Taurus truly longs for, though they rarely admit it, is to be held in their most unguarded state, to be seen not for how much they can endure, but for how deeply they feel. Not for what they carry, but for what they silently yearn to lay down. They want someone to ask, "Are you really okay?" and to stay when the answer is no. But the irony is this: they've trained the world to believe they never need that question. They've become so good at surviving, they forgot how to ask for softness. And here's the deeper truth. Beneath their silence isn't weakness. It's tenderness. It's the child in them who once cried without shame. It's the soul that wants to trust again. It's the divine heart that knows even strength must rest. So if you love a Taurus, listen to the words they don't say. Notice the shift in their energy. The nights they grow quieter than usual, the small sighs, the forgotten meals, the long stares into nothing, because sometimes the bravest thing they'll ever do is nothing at all. Taurus doesn't crave extravagance, they crave peace. But here lies a sacred paradox. Sometimes the pursuit of peace becomes the prison of the soul. This sign, governed by Venus, seeks comfort, sensuality, and permanence. They build homes, routines, lives that feel safe. But safety, when mistaken for stability, can become stagnation. Taurus clings, not out of ignorance, but out of reverence. They believe that once something feels right, it should last forever. But the soul does not operate by contracts of permanence. The soul flows, and Taurus resists. They resist change, not because they lack courage, but because change often feels like chaos. And chaos terrifies a Taurus heart because it threatens to undo everything they worked so hard to build. Their relationships, their identity, their place in the world, each is a thread in a tapestry of emotional architecture. Losing one piece feels like losing the whole picture, so they stay. In friendships that no longer nourish, in careers that drain their joy, in beliefs that no longer resonate. And while others call it loyalty, what Taurus calls commitment can sometimes be fear in disguise, the fear of nothing to hold on to, the fear of beginning again. Because for Taurus, beginnings mean risk, and risk means uncertainty. And uncertainty means stepping into a space where there are no guarantees, but that is where the soul begins to awaken. Taurus doesn't realize it yet, but their sadness often comes not from loss, but from the refusal to release what's already gone. They are spiritually attuned to the past, lovers of memory, of continuity, of emotional legacy. But sometimes the pain they carry is not even theirs, it's ancestral. It's woven into their lineage, passed down like family heirlooms. Stay strong, don't complain, hold the line. But the line is heavy, and the most dangerous sadness of Taurus is the one born from self-abandonment, when they continue to show up for everything and everyone except themselves, when they maintain a life that looks perfect but feels hollow, when their soul whispers, "It's time," but they stay out of duty, fear, or habit. This is the moment of awakening for Taurus, not when they decide to fight, but when they finally allow themselves to release, to surrender not to defeat, but to transformation. Because what they truly long for isn't stability, it's authenticity. Not routines that numb, but rituals that nourish. The divine doesn't want Taurus to let go of who they are. The divine wants Taurus to remember who they've always been, beneath the silence. Because what if the peace they've been guarding so fiercely is not peace at all, but simply the absence of movement? And what if what awaits beyond the stillness is freedom? There comes a point in the Taurian path where the silence becomes too loud, where the weight of all they've carried, quietly, loyally, unflinchingly, can no longer be ignored. And in that sacred moment, something ancient within them begins to stir. It is not rage, it is not despair, it is remembrance. Because Taurus did not come here to survive behind walls. They came to build sanctuaries, not just for others, but for themselves. They came to cultivate beauty, to protect tenderness, to honor the slow magic of love that doesn't scream, but stays. But before they can return to that sacred truth, they must first face a mirror, the kind of mirror that doesn't reflect appearances, but essence. And that mirror asks one question: who are you when no one is watching? The Taurus soul knows how to endure, yes, but it also knows how to heal. It knows how to be soft without being small, how to receive, not just give, how to rest, not just provide. This is their next spiritual initiation, not into more duty, but into liberation. To learn that it's okay to be held, to be listened to fall apart in someone's arms and not apologize for the tremble in their voice. To know that showing pain doesn't diminish their strength, it humanizes it. It allows others in. It allows love in. Because love, real love, doesn't require perfection. It doesn't demand constant composure. It doesn't ask for the silence of sacrifice. It asks for presence, for vulnerability, for truth. And Taurus, beneath your grounded feet and your calm exterior, you hold a truth the world is dying to remember. That gentleness is not weakness. That stability is not stagnation. That to love fiercely, you must first love yourself enough to say, "This hurts. This is too much. I need help." These are not signs of failure. These are sacred doors opening, portals to the life you've been silently longing for. So take off the armor, not all at once, maybe just for a moment, with someone safe or with the stars. Let your sadness speak, not to drown you, but to show you where the healing lives. Because at the end of all silence, there is a voice waiting to rise. And it sounds a lot like your own, steady, warm, sacred, true. You've walked this far in silence, Taurus. Now, it's time to speak, to ask, to receive, to rest, to know that the universe has seen you, every tear, every sacrifice, every ache hidden behind a smile. And it has one message: you are not alone. You were never alone. You were simply becoming. And now, Taurus, if this touched even one part of your heart, don't leave in silence. Let yourself be seen. Here, subscribe so you don't walk this path alone, and share the one thing you needed to hear today, not just for you, but for the next soul who arrives, searching for themselves in your words. Healing begins with truth, and yours could be the spark someone else has been praying for.